ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Historic Preservation Review Board regular meeting. This is a citizen board appointed by the Town Council to interpret and uphold the Historic Preservation Ordinance, which is Article 8 of the Abingdon zoning ordinance that protects the historic district of Abingdon, which has been designated as the Old and Historic District. Our aim on this board is to provide a positive bridge between property owners of the district and the design review process. So we welcome you to today's meeting. We appreciate your interest and we encourage public participation in our meeting. When you come to address the board, if you would approach the podium and give us your full name and your mailing address, that would be very helpful. And a word of warning, when we come to your item on the agenda, the staff will make a brief presentation of the project before we need you to come up and answer questions and give us some information about it. So if you just hold on until they do their little presentation, that would be very helpful. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Here.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Here.
Mrs. White is absent, and Mr. Geisler.
Here. Okay, approval of minutes from the May 4, 2022 regular meeting. Does anyone have any changes or comments regarding those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve them as submitted?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler.
Aye. All right, the first item is a certificate of appropriateness for Bradley Kinder for 112 East Main Street. So we have a staff report regarding that project.
Gabriel Christopher, Town Planner. So Bradley Kinder, owner / applicant, has requested approval of certificate of appropriateness for a sign. The property is located at 112 East Main Street. The sign will be located at the front of the property, measured 3 feet by 5 feet, roughly 5 feet high, and be permanently affixed to the ground. The proposed sign will be double-sided and proposed to read Healing Waters Counseling Center. The property is within the Old and Historic Zoning District, Subdistrict 2, and entrance corridor, and can be seen from the public right-of-way, and is therefore requiring the approval of the HPRB prior to completion. Some background, the subject property contains approximately 0.19 acres and is legally described as James Gordon, DECD, and Margaret M. Craig, Prop, acreage 0.19. Generally, the subject property is located at 112 East Main Street. There is currently no sign where the proposed sign is to be located. Access to the site will continue to be East Main Street, and the adjoining properties are OH on all sides. Staff findings. Upon further discussion with the applicant on site on May 19th, 2022, the applicant intends on illuminating the sign. The applicant has already run a water and electrical lines out to the area and in the front yard of the property. The proposed sign will be directly over the outlet, if not close nearby. The lines are underground and cannot be seen from the right-of-way. Section 23-A of the Design Review Guidelines states, lighting should be concealed and should not use visible bulbs, flashing lights, or luminous plants. Spot or uplit lighting or signs is recommended, but they should not be backlit or internally lit. The proposed freestanding sign will be located at the front of the property, measured 3 feet by 5 feet, equaling 15 square feet, be roughly 5 feet high, and affixed permanently to the ground. According to 42-C of the Design Review Guidelines, signs are allowed to be only 4 square feet, but the HPRB does have the authority to allow larger signs in the OH district if they deem them appropriate. The proposed sign will be double-sided and will read Healing Waters Counseling Center, be constructed of high-density urethane, HDU. The lettering and design will be slightly protruded from the face of the sign and be painted white. The background will be painted a navy blue color. An interior border will be painted gold, and the outer border will be painted a bluish teal color. Supporting the sign will be 2 6-inch by 6-inch or 8-inch by 8-inch poles on either side of the proposed sign. Upon discussing with the applicant the construction details of the proposed sign and support poles on May 17th, 2022, the applicant mentioned having a vinyl sleeve over the poles to prevent deterioration, but stated he would have wooden posts painted white with no vinyl sleeve if the board saw the vinyl sleeves to be inappropriate.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is Mr. Kinder here?
Yes, sir.
Or come on?
Is it okay if Dr. Oakfield comes with?
Sure.
How are y'all this evening?
Good.
Good.
How are you doing?
Doing well. I'm Brad Kinder, and this is Dr. Oakfield. We work together at Healing Waters Counseling Center. I'm the CEO and the founding owner. We currently have offices in Cedar Bluff, Wise, and Whitfield, and Lebanon. But we're in the process of moving our Lebanon office here to the beautiful town of Abingdon. I appreciate the steps that y'all take to keep your town beautiful. I have the same sentiments. Obviously, you can tell this is not a cheap sign. It's over $4,000 to make the sign, and we want to make it look right. And I've looked at some other signs in town that have the way it's illuminated, and we don't want to cause any kind of visual obstructions or any kind of problems with people on the roadway or neighbors. And kind of my long-term plans is we would like to, unfortunately, our name is kind of long, so it's hard to fit Healing Waters Counseling Center on a smaller area. And this dimension matches exactly what we have at Whitfield, Wise, and Cedar Bluff. And the other concern I have is, I didn't realize this at the time, but we share our name. There's another Healing Waters here in Abington. It's a day spa. And so my concern with not being able to put counseling center on there is there may be some confusion and people are coming to our place. And then if the lettering is smaller, then I think that could cause some traffic related issues, maybe even accidents if people are trying to see where they're coming. And also from a business perspective, I worry that people would have a harder time finding me. And it's kind of funny, I've joked with the people of the town that just regular consumers and neighbors and different folks in the town, they said, well, which house did you buy? And I said, the big ugly one. So that's how I've been explaining it to people. It needed a lot of work. I've put about $150,000 worth of renovations in it after I bought it. So I plan on it looking really nice for the town. New roof, new water lines, sewer, or new plumbing, electrical, insulation, you name it. We've done stuff with the foundation to secure it from further deterioration. So I'm all about making things beautiful, and I'm all about keeping things historic. I also have a beach house in Charleston, South Carolina, and that city is probably regulated more than any other city in America, if I had to guess. It's a very historical town, so I do appreciate that, and you know, we want to comply as much as possible, but I'm trying to find just I guess a happy medium that can have enough visibility to where you know, I don't want to be overkill, but I don't want to be underkill either. And I was telling Dr. Oakfield on the way down here, I don't want a large combo at Wendy's, or I don't want a small combo. I'd like to have a medium, you know, and I think that would be sufficient. The sign will look really good. Our long-term plans, we don't want to put any names or anything like that under the sign. It would just look like this. And eventually, as I was telling you, I don't know when, but we would like to have a little rock under it like y'all have out here when you first come in at the downstairs behind the building. I like that little rock that's got the water coming out of it, and I think that would look nice and kind of accentuate our name. And then the lighting of the nighttime, whatever the policy is on that, we would want to comply with that. And as far as the height of it, I had said 5 feet, I think, but really that doesn't really, whatever the height that y'all want it to be is fine. I just kind of guesstimated on that. I'm definitely not a contractor. I'm a therapist, so if you're depressed or anxious, I can help you. But as far as some of these things, I don't really know. But I know the town of Whitfield, they like the sign, so does Wise and Cedar Bluff. I've never had any concerns, or everybody says that they feel like it is a nice looking sign. And my other concern we were talking about on the way down here is the old saying goes, a business with no sign is a sign of no business. And so to me, if the sign is so small that you can't read what it says, it's pretty much not a sign. And so, so our goal is to make it easier on our patients to find where we're at. There's definitely a need for mental health treatment in this area, and we're looking forward to being here. We're also a faith-based practice. I pastor a church, and I'm also an ordained minister, and so we're really, really excited to be here. So far, we've had a good experience with the town, and thank y'all for letting me present.
Well, thank you. Does anyone have questions or comments?
I am concerned about the size. I mean, we get these every month when we have a meeting. We have to tell people their signs are too big. That's just the way it works. And, excuse me, I've got a little laryngitis today. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but we really do try to stick with that, because otherwise we're just gonna have too many signs in the historic part. I don't know if your other practices are in the historic parts of your towns
They are.
and what their guidelines are, but we are pretty strict with our guidelines.
Yeah.
So, our guidelines do require 4 square feet, and, the reason for that obviously is to keep the historic district looking like an historic district and not have a lot of larger signs. So, I mean, would it be possible for the person making your sign to scale it down? It looks like there could be could take it in from the sides and maybe the bottom a little bit, and I guess you wouldn't necessarily have to have the HWCC on there, but you could still have your entire name.
Yeah, I think the HWCC could easily be removed. I like the logo.
Downsize the logo.
I mean, if you could even bring it in.
Well,
you
the
know.
60 inches wide is really because our name is so long.
Right.
What I was looking at earlier, of course, I don't know the dimensions, so I've not really looked into it that much, and I didn't get to send this to you in time, but there's an old, I think it used to be a travel agency in town. It's a little white house, like a little cottage, and it's a former counseling center, but I think the lady might be retired, I don't really know. But they have a sign, and I went and measured it before the meeting tonight, and it is almost identical to our sign.
Is that in the historic?
I don't know.
I
that
believe
that's
it is.
Can you show us that picture?
Can
I
I
don't know
show
what
you?
it says here.
It's right, it's where the old travel agency used to be. It's right,
Do you have an address?
I do not. Maybe we could find it. It's called Counseling Associates of Abingdon, was what it used to be called. I think the lady's husband was an attorney, maybe.
I'm not sure where that is.
Down toward the laundry.
335 East Main.
Oh, this actually is not in the historic district. It's down past, it's past what used to be the general store, that block.
Oh, down that block.
It's, like if you're going down Main Street where, Tanner Street is, where the old general store is, and Rain Restaurant, it's past there, isn't it?
This one?
Yeah.
Yes, it's right there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not.
so that's actually,
That's out
that's
of the
not.
district.
Okay.
But I mean, but it's actually a very good thing that you've done that, because that's exactly what we encounter, which is if we let your sign be larger,
Mhm.
everybody else that comes in after you will bring your sign to us and say, why can't we have a larger sign since this sign's larger? So that's the reason we really have to be vigilant about that, because once we let it happen, we might as well just make the new sign size the new sign size. So, unfortunately, that we have to be very strict about
Yeah.
that.
And obviously, I read that it doesn't apply to churches,
Right.
because there's a church literally
Yeah.
across the street from me, and the sign's probably, I don't know, I'd say about 7 or 8 foot wide.
Is it churches and
Restaurants.
Yeah. Now, I could serve donuts. And I'm an ordained minister, so, technically.
I think you should have been longer.
But we don't mind to shrink it, but it's just my concern is I don't want to shrink it so much to where
You can't read it.
you can't read
Yeah.
it, So how can we do a?
Well, I think you've only got to shave 1 square foot off. So I think, it looks to me like there'd be enough room to still even leave your letters the same size they are, just have a smaller size.
Yeah, I like the sign other than the size. No problem with
Yeah, it's a
that.
beautiful
Even if you drop
sign.
the center, and that would shrink it in a few more inches,
Right,
and
so
drop the H.
make the logo a little bit smaller and then squeeze the.
I think
two
your
sides
text-
of
excuse
that.
me, I think
Healing
your
Waters
text
Counseling.
would
have to be smaller as well.
Yeah, you probably have to.
That's my.
To be able to get it in comfortably.
Yeah.
I have one question. Do you have a lot of walk-in business?
I mean, we do, but most of the time, it's a mix. So with COVID, it's been, but who knows? And it seems like each town has their own personality. So I'm not sure what Abington will.
It would be mostly people probably driving to the location and trying to find it for the first time would be the main concern.
I was just thinking of your concern about people being able to find you.
Yeah, and the reality is, and I hate this. At the end of the day, we have to turn a profit or we can't stay there. And so I've already paid a lot for the building, and I've put a lot of money in the building. It was existingly very ugly and was an eyesore, was an eyesore with the town. And I'm trying to make it look as nice as possible, but I need to get in there and start seeing patients and see a return on my investment as well. And I'm afraid over time that you have to think with mental health patients, they get frustrated very easily, especially people who have anxiety disorders, and they're already nervous about coming to begin with. Our research shows approximately 70% of our first-time referrals don't even walk in the door because they have so much anxiety that they don't even want to come. But then after they come for the first visit, approximately 80% show on the second session. So we don't want to put barriers and roadblocks in their way to where they'll just get frustrated and just keep driving and just, I'm done with it. I can't find this place, and I'm such a loser, I can't even find where my psychologist works or whatever. And so that's my concern too, is just trying to, I don't want to be overkill and have too big of a sign, but I don't want to have too small of a sign either. And I do respectfully think 2x2 is just way too small.
Well, Abingdon has a very thriving business historic district. There's lots of businesses in the historic district. They all comply with these guidelines. It doesn't, it hasn't been a problem for businesses in this area. As a matter of fact, I think, strict adherence to these guidelines, that is what has kept the historic district such an interesting place that people want to be, people want to come, and people want to do business. So, I really see that as an attribute.
It is very beautiful. I can tell you though, my neighbor is the Goodman Jewelers, and they've told me that people say they can't read their sign, and it just says Goodman Jewelers, and I'm Healing Waters Counseling Center. And so Mr. and Miss Goodman, they told me that even tonight, I was talking to them, and they said, people tell us all the time they can't find us. They can't even see our sign. And so that's my concern too. And so I just, don't want to miss the forest for the trees, I guess. So.
The practice I work in currently is a huge building, huge signs. It's not in the historic district, and we still have people that can't find us. So,
It's not an optometry office, is it?
yeah.
Is it really? That's hilarious. Okay.
So I think
That's because they can't see.
Yeah, that's not a fair estimate. But after they leave, the sign, whoa.
there it is. But I think, if they are seeking you out, I think they'll find you.
Yeah.
So I'm firm on the 4 square feet.
Right.
I think the sign's great, and I would make a motion that we approve the sign if it's in 4 square feet.
Before there was an issue, how are you going to light it? Is it going to be?
Pretty much just whatever y'all want. I looked at other signs that's illuminated, and even the Goodman Jeweler sign is illuminated.
Just illuminate from the exterior, like from the ground up?
Whatever y'all's policy says, it doesn't.
That's what our guidelines prefer.
Really, as long as you can see it at nighttime, I don't really care how it's illuminated.
And then the post, our guidelines, I think, would not allow any sort of vinyl
So just
wrapping of
wood?
the post, just wood posts.
That's fine.
So I think if you'd like to amend your motion to include.
Who's
all-
making your sign? Somebody from Abingdon?
No, it's Tim White.
I was gonna say, because the people in Abingdon really do know they know
Yeah, Tim White's out of
figure it
Kingsport.
out.
And I've been in practice for 12 years now, and he always makes my
Yeah.
signs. And I like
I
to
think
give
the
him
only
a
problem would
business.
be the size. So if
Yeah,
you
it's
could
the
just
Do you think we
size.
could fit two?
scale it to.
You could, just to be clear, it can be 4 by 1. I mean,
Yeah, it can.
it can be like 4
Oh,
feet.
okay, I
It
didn't
just
realize
doesn't
that.
have to
Okay.
be
Yeah, it
2 by
has to
2.
be.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought
4
it was
square
stuck on 2 by 2.
No, it's the total
Okay, I didn't
square
know.
footage.
Square feet, it can
Well,
be
heck, if
how-
I'd known that, I just wouldn't came with Cracker Barrel. So, but we'll go to Cracker Barrel anyways.
Can I ask one thing?
Uh,
Is your street number prominently visible on the house?
I have no idea.
Or could that be added to this?
A street
possibly?
number?
You're-
Yeah, your, whatever.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
I mean,
if
if
it's
someone's
visible.
putting your
Like
address into
112
their
East Main.
Google Maps or something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's visible, but yeah, that would be something we would definitely, want to have,
I
for
mean,
sure.
if it could be incorporated and still stay within
Mhm.
the required size, I think that would be helpful.
Right,
Mhm.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So, the other thing I wanted to mention is, when the building inspector came the other day, he mentioned that he wanted us to have a ramp. And so, which I'm fine with, but I told him that we have 4 offices that share the same tax ID. So technically, from a legal perspective, we don't have to have an ADA ramp because they can go to another office. But as a courtesy, I don't care to put one in. I just don't want it to delay my opening date, which is set for August. But next month, when we couldn't get it on the agenda tonight for time purposes, but next month I'm in Chicago, and so I wouldn't be able to be here, and then I didn't want to wait till the August meeting, and so we were hoping that's one reason I brought Dr. Ofield with me, so he could meet y'all and he could be my representative next month. But
That'd be fine.
do you have the date for that next month?
It's always the first Wednesday.
First
month.
Wednesday.
Okay, you're out of town too?
I'm So that's like the 5th of July, so
Do we have
that's,
anything else
right,
coming
or
up?
the 6th of July, I think.
So we're both out of town, okay.
But we also can have a special called meeting if
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
not running up against your deadlines and you need to get something done.
Okay.
We don't have a problem with that. We just have to have at least 3 of us here to look at it.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah, because
And-
it's 4th of July week, so.
Whatever the amount of time for advertising, just I
Yeah,
forget.
like, what is it, a week?
Notice of the meeting has to
Who would I have
published.
to reach out to about that? Okay.
Yeah, and basically what we do is we send out an email, see if they're available on in between Wednesday. And if there is a quorum of people that could show up, we just set up another week. So-
Okay.
So,
Yeah. And maybe if by that time you'll have,
is there existing guidelines as to composition and that type of thing for the ramp that you guys already have existing?
I'm not sure, we have our guidelines, I don't know, do they?
I guess it would depend on, I mean, if there's guardrails and so on, it would probably need to be the same as the requirements for a porch.
Right, but the
Or
current
deck.
current porch is concrete, so.
Well,
There are guidelines that for handicap accessible ramps, and me and Rick Stats, the building official, we've talked about letting them go with a temporary COA, this way they can still open, and then I'll come to you later with the ramp and all the details, since the last one didn't meet the code for him, so I figured he would get the specs first. If they pass it through him, I would look at it after, then they would come in front of you with all the details of concrete, the railing, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And that's part of my problem too. I don't really know the specifications. I'm not a builder. So if Rick wanted to just tell me like what to do, and then we'll do it and then show it to y'all.
Okay.
That would be easier for me, because I had my contractor, we measured and gave the dimensions to Rick, and then he said they're not good enough, and I'm like, well, just tell me what you want, and then we'll do whatever, so.
Well, the town's requirements, as far as the building code goes, has to do with the height of your guardrail and whether there's a handrail involved, and width and maximum pitch. But anything to do with aesthetics, I think we would need to see.
Mhm.
Like, what does the rail look like?
What's it made out
Are
of?
there-
What's the
Are there
design?
square pickets or
Are you
turn
gonna
pickets?
paint it?
Does it match
Yeah,
Yes,
detailing on the house?
right.
basically, there's a
So there's kind of two
concrete,
pieces of it.
There's a concrete slab there now, so we would just extend that concrete slab into a ramp, basically. It'd be the same color, same appearance. And then as far as whatever the railing is, just whatever railing y'all want, it doesn't matter to me, as long as it's ADA compliant, the town's happy with it, then I'm happy, so.
So he would have to tell you what's required in terms of the handrail and the slope of the ramp, but then we would have to approve the actual, to look at
Get a
what
better
what's
picture of the
proposed in
front
terms of
end.
the pickets and the handrail and how it goes with the house and that kind of thing.
But as long as it mimics the current construction, that's basically
It
what
would
you
probably
guys are
be
looking for.
fine, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the sign as long as it's within the 4 square feet, however you want to do that. And with wooden posts that can be painted white, the height I
Is there a
don't think we-
stipulation on the height?
I don't think so, is
I don't think so.
In that case, we may go up high. So, if there's no stipulation, that might be a good compromise, at least they can see it.
Well, just to be clear, you presented 5 feet high, so that's what they have to.
Well, approximately,
mandate.
if there's no stipulation.
We can approve 5 feet or less.
I mean, that's what's in your proposal.
Is
Yeah,
that to the-
I could repropose
5 feet
a
to the-
different height, so.
To the top
Five
of the
feet high will be
bottom.
very visible.
Yeah, I think so too.
5 feet to the top,
To the
is that what
top.
it says?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what our other signs are now, and it's fine. I was just being silly.
Okay.
So,
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler?
Aye. All right, well,
All right,
welcome,
thank you.
and we look
Thank you.
forward to having you in the town.
we appreciate it. Same here.
Thank
See
you.
ya. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have a certificate of appropriateness with regard to 301 West Valley Street. This is Bruce Compton, and we'll have a staff report to begin with.
So some of the other ones you've seen, this is kind of a bigger project in a sense, so I've kind of broken up. So if there's any questions for each section, just kind of stop me and you can ask a question. So Bruce Compton, owner/applicant, has requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for exterior changes. The property is located at 301 West Valley Street. Exterior changes include refinishing exposed exterior foundation walls, replacing missing or round wooden clapboards, repainting the building envelope, which are wooden clapboards, removing shutters, attach window casings, and replace the main entrance door facing West Valley Street. The property is within the Old and Historic District, Sub-District 10, and can be seen from the public right-of-way, and is therefore requiring the approval of the HPRB prior to completion. Some background information. The subject property contains approximately 0.25 acres and is legally described as Valley Street, Hordstein acreage 0.25, lot 110, J.M. Rose plan. According to Place and Time, Volume 2 by Nancy C. King, the building was constructed in 1905. The applicant started the project before being notified by staff of the necessity to go in front of the HPRB for approval of the changes previously stated. The only alteration that occurred before notification by staff was the removal of vinyl siding to reveal original wooden clapboards. Access to the site will continue to be Wall Street, and the adjoining properties are OH on all sides. Okay, so first staff finding is for the entrance door. The existing door facing West Valley Street is an unpainted wooden door with horizontally oriented panels. The upper half includes a decorative inlaid glass panel. Wood carved details can be seen in the upper and middle sections of the existing door. Hardware for the existing door is intricate and most likely original. The door itself is most likely original or a very early alteration. From site visits, the existing door is in good condition and is in no need of repair. According to sections 9-A and 9-C-1 of the design review guidelines, original doors and hardware should not be removed or replaced. The applicant is proposing to replace the current door with a new insulated 4-paneled wooden door with a fan light. Next one, we move on to the foundation. From observations on site, a small section of the brick foundation wall is exposed to the elements because the brown/tan stucco has begun to break away from the brick substrate. The small section is located on the west elevation of the building. Historically, stucco acted as a protective barrier for the bricks against the elements. According to 15-A of the design review guidelines, foundation should not be replaced but repaired as needed, adhering to the original design features. Also, 15-C states foundation should not be concealed by non-original materials. The applicant is proposing to refinish the exposed portion of the foundation wall with a man-made stone veneer. Next, we move on to the painting of the envelope. The original clapboards are painted yellow. So as you can see in the picture on the left-hand side, that's the old paint. It's just very dirty for being exposed through the from the years. And then much of the paint has or is peeling away from the wooded substrate, leaving the wood exposed to the elements. The applicant is proposing to paint the original wooden clapboards a similar, if not exact, identical shade of yellow to match the existing paint color. And on the right-hand side in the picture, you can see that I said new paint there, so it's pretty much an exact match. Okay, so for the window casings, there are currently no window casings around the windows and were probably removed when the siding was removed. According to discussions with the applicant's contractor, Wade Nunley, they intend on reattaching window casings around the windows.
The original window casings, is that what you're saying?
The original windows are not there anymore.
No, I
They
mean
were-
the casings, were,
They're
Any-
casings
probably
are-
in the landfill.
Yeah, the casings aren't originally
so
either.
we don't,
Yeah,
we need to know material for those? Is that listed?
it's probably gonna be, it's wood. I looked on Google Maps and the casings match what the windows are, and it's just kind of like very simple, kind of modern kind of casing. The only existing shutters found in the building are on the primary elevation. A majority of the houses in the area surrounding 301 West Valley Street do not have shutters. It is unknown if these shutters are original or not to the building. However, the building not having shutters would match other buildings found throughout the immediate area. The applicant is proposing not to replace the 5 pair of louvered shutters which were removed from the elevation. The existing clapboards appear to have been encapsulated whenever vinyl siding was applied over the clapboards. While on site, a few of the clapboards had either rotted off or in bad condition because of rot. The applicant is proposing to replace in kind new wooden clapboards to match existing where replacement is needed. And that is it. There are no questions for me. I'll let the applicant come up and you can ask him any
All right,
questions.
sir, if you'd like to come on up. So is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A little bit.
All right, go right ahead.
Thank you, folks, for allowing me to be here tonight. I appreciate your efforts. My name's Bruce Compton. I live at 301 West Valley Street. I live alone with a little kitten, it's my only company. And I've taken several pictures here, both the good and bad. And so I brought those along also. And of course, I'll be anxious to answer any question. At this point, it's all I can think
Okay.
about.
Well, first of all, I just would like to point out that thank you for taking the work on to do the house, and especially taking off the siding and addressing, I guess it was a vinyl siding?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which is not, we don't, that's not, there are houses in the historic district that have vinyl siding, but we don't approve that, and that's not, encouraged in the historic district, so we appreciate you taking that off and addressing that.
Yes, sir.
So I guess, should we take up each issue as they were presented, maybe take up the door first?
Sure, that's how it is in here, and just go in order.
Yeah, so, so we'll get, obviously, we are the Historic Preservation Review Board.
Yes, sir.
So we're all about preserving the historic features of the historic structures in town. I mean, that is our number one main priority. And, you can understand why. In the historic district, we would like to preserve the historic fabric of these buildings as much as possible.
Yes, sir.
So removing, taking out the original windows or the original doors or any of those sorts of features, we really can't permit that. I understand this may not be maybe the style of door that you would prefer to have, but it's the original door, and it's, part of the historic fabric of the town of Abingdon. So that's one of the hard and fast things that we just cannot permit unless something is so deteriorated that it can't be repaired, which is pretty rare as a matter of fact, but, your door is not deteriorated. So I don't really think there's much we can do in that regard. The original windows, the original doors, the original features of buildings, we cannot let those be replaced.
That door is actually a showpiece for that
Yeah,
house.
it's a beautiful door, I
It's a
think.
beautiful
Beautiful.
door.
And the other point is that the door you're proposing doesn't really look like this sort of late 19th century style. It's sort of an earlier, kind of like a Georgian or something style, of which there are examples in the district, but I don't think it would be appropriate here anyway.
you're restoring, you're taking off that vinyl siding and putting it back to the original beautiful building that it was, and this door's gonna, I think the door's gonna really make it a showplace, so
And there's things that can be done to restore that door that's gonna make it more energy efficient. I'm sure it's leaky now, so to
Yes, sir.
speak, but there are many things that can be done to eliminate that.
Do you think the door was stained wood originally?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was told that the lady got off of Craigslist, and whoever installed it did a really poor job.
Oh, you don't think it's the original door?
No, no.
Do we have a picture of the original door?
Well, you can't really tell. I was
Yeah.
looking at Places in Time, and
Can you see from that?
it looks like that it was a half light. You think?
Could that be maybe a storm door?
I don't know. But I mean, this book, this was 1994. So a lot of things have
Yeah,
happened
it
since
looks-
then.
Does it fit the space?
Doesn't that look like a
correctly?
half light?
It does.
It does
No.
not fit the space?
No, sir. No, ma'am.
Well, if it's not the original door, that's a whole different matter.
Right.
I mean, it has the handles on the opposite side too, I think of where you're proposing on the southern door.
Well, this is an inside, because
Oh,
see,
that's
with
an inside door.
hinges on.
Okay.
But I would still say that I don't think this proposed door is appropriate.
Right, the new door would not be appropriate, but if that's not the original door that went with the house, then,
You might want to check at the Historic Society. They've probably got a photograph of that house that would show what the original door looked like. And like Byron mentioned, if this was not the original door, then that's something that we can work with.
It's really pretty door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, can we table that issue till that part of it, till you can look into?
Well, if you could permit me, there's some more things I want to point out about the door.
Okay, go right ahead, please do.
It is not installed correctly. It's got a bow in it, so it lets heat out and bugs in. And borer bees did a pretty good job on it,
Ooh.
and you just can't keep them right off. It's got several cracks in it, and just occurred over time, I'm sure, in the wooden part. And
You're not a big fan of this door, are you?
no. And on top of that, of course, the vinyl siding is no longer there, but every time I come to the front door, I kick in the door thing, which is plastic. And it's just something that I hope you guys will reevaluate.
Well, I would think that if you do replace the door, it's very likely that it had a half-glass light here. I think you'll find that on a lot of houses of this same style through the district. And I don't know if you would consider that.
Do you have this copy of this book? Because we can give you a photocopy of what we have.
Now, are you talking about the new door I've got?
I'm talking about if you replace the door that's here
Yeah,
with something other than this one
Yeah.
that I think, feel it's not really appropriate. If you would consider one with a half-glass
Glass.
yeah.
light.
Well, the door I bought down in Bristol, Virginia. I think it's called the Door Store down there on the left on Commonwealth.
Mhm.
And the reason I bought it, one of the reasons, was that he had a good price on it, $250.
Mhm.
And so, now I actually did call the Historic Society, and the door hasn't been installed yet. And spoke to, I think he sounded like he's an older gentleman, not old as me for sure, but he sounded by just his voice that he was a bit of an older gentleman. And I told him the reason I called, and he said, yeah, sure, go ahead, put it in, no problem.
No.
So that's what I based on, and I can't return it.
We're not the Historic Society. We're the
Yeah.
Historic Preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
yes,
two
I
different.
understand that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a very modern door, and that's not something we would approve. I mean, had you come to us before you purchased it.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Well, I have a question, and I don't mean this as a criticism of
Yes, sir.
you, but just out of curiosity, were you aware of the historic preservation guidelines in the district?
No, sir.
And
No, sir.
so nobody, how long have you had the house?
June 15th will make 8 years I've lived here.
And you didn't know you lived in an historic district?
No, sir, not till I actually got in there, and again, I wasn't aware of that.
I mean, the reason I'm not criticizing you is because it's sort of a recurring situation that we find that people buy property and nobody's told them that
Yeah, yeah.
there's a book of guidelines to be followed. So, it's something we need to address. It's not your problem at this point.
How did you find out that you did need to get a certificate of appropriateness?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Was there stop
We
work
placed
order?
a stop work
Oh,
order
okay.
on the property, so.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
while removing the vinyl siding is good, even that action
Gotcha.
wasn't allowed without your
Gotcha.
approval. So we saw that happen and requested that he come in and meet with us, and we stopped it until he could come to you.
Well, let's work through all these issues, and then maybe we'll can decide where to go from here. So the second issue was the foundation. And again, as you heard, our guidelines don't allow you to put, imitation rock product over top of the existing foundation. You would need to repair the foundation. You could stucco over the repair to match the existing stucco. That would not be a problem, but you can't put, a modern product over top of the foundation like you're proposing. You need to repair the brick foundation where there's missing brick with brick, and stucco over it and match it if that's what you'd like to do. That's the appropriate repair for that kind of an issue. Does anyone else have any?
Well, just a question, is there much damage with the brick foundation itself, or is it mostly where this parging coat has popped off?
There's several bricks missing. The foundation, it doesn't have any foundation across the front. It's got some posts in the ground, some brick pillars. And then it's got what looks to me like a 5x5 that the house is actually sitting on. As far as I can tell, it hasn't sunk in.
You don't have a basement.
No, ma'am, it's got a crawl space.
Okay, are there any other comments about the foundation?
I wonder if the brick do you think that brick was added at some point, or was it?
I don't know.
So there's a brick foundation with some spaces missing as to the house, except on the very front of the porch, is that right?
On the front of the house, yes, sir.
Okay. And then, so you're gonna match the paint to the existing paint?
Yes, sir.
That's obviously not a problem.
Yes, sir.
And then you're gonna put the original window casings back on that were
Yes,
taken
sir.
off when you,
Wade's gonna he's gonna rip down one of the threes, I think they are, to an inch wide.
right.
And put
And-
those-
And you're gonna put more wooden clapboard where it's missing in places?
Yes, sir. Some of the vinyl siding actually was in the ground. Some other places you couldn't even see it. And so Wade's going to take off those boards that are close to the ground and use them
Oh,
to
I see.
patch places that need patching.
Do you have a paint color for that?
Yes, what Wade's used so far is yellow, but.
No, the yellow, but around the windows. You can do
White,
White,
yes.
okay.
An industrial white paint I happen to have up there, was left there.
And then on the shutters, I guess there were shutters on the first floor, but you don't want to put them back up. Do you know if those are original shutters from when or if they're modern replacements?
I don't know, sir. I just, Wade took them off when he was taking the vinyl siding off.
What are they made out of?
Plastic.
Oh, they're okay.
Okay.
They're not over there. So if they're not original shutters, there would be no problem with you not replacing them.
Yeah.
You can leave those
Yeah.
down. So
The-
the only issue then, and jump in if I.
Just let me,
Go
before you
ahead.
back up. So the windows were they installed when the siding was put on, do you think, the vinyl?
Can
I
you go
think
back,
so.
'Cause they-
Mariana, to that picture you have?
Because they're not original, obviously.
No,
That one.
no.
How do you plan on finishing out, I don't know if you see, below the windows, there's the space that there's no,
He's gonna take the
Yeah,
wood
yes,
that's
go ahead.
below, the
Sure.
where he was talking about the wood that's low down, he's gonna
And
take the.
fill in there?
And fill in there.
okay.
I think the windows must have been taller originally,
Is
and
it-
when these replacements were put in, they
Yes,
had that
sir.
much space left over.
That's what it looks
Wade and his crew are gonna paint all this the same color as they're repainting.
How do you plan on finishing this section out?
Just by painting it, yeah. Now, he might cut this out where you see this black. Presume he will paint it.
What I'm referring to is this section right here. Are you gonna replace these fine pieces to fill that in to make it match, or are you gonna paint that white?
As far as I
Or use
know,
casing there?
as far as I know, Wade's gonna use the same color yellow that he's been using before he stopped, and he had.
But isn't he?
With
going-
new
but-
boards.
But there's missing boards there, he's gonna replace the
Yes,
boards,
sir.
isn't he?
Yes, sir. That's gonna be with some of these boards that get down close to the ground.
Okay.
Because you can't just paint that, wood that's exposed that doesn't have the clapboard on the side.
Yes.
I think that's answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've got some pictures here that I'd like you folks to look at, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, there's only two of us looking at it.
Sorry. Yeah, I can't get it to work, maybe you folks can.
What, you looking for your,
Pictures of the house and I'm sorry, I'm just not too good a hand with using that tablet.
Should be a little icon in the corner that takes you to it. You have to go to camera and then go to the,
I don't see camera, photos. Here we go.
All right. Here's the pictures if you wanna come show us what you wanted to show
Yes,
us.
sir.
This is a back door.
No, sir, that's the front door, but it's not installed, I don't know how, what's just. That's some of the siding.
So you're gonna find siding to go here.
No, it's just, paint this, scraped and.
Right, but this section right here, you plan on using some of this old siding down
Oh,
at the
no,
bottom to go?
no, sir, I was just wanted to point out that it had, wooden floors that are still, not the original floors, but,
Oh, that's a floor?
yes, in good,
No.
good
No.
condition.
That's underneath that window. That's what I'm,
yeah, that's that section below the windows.
Was there something you specifically wanted to show us in these pictures?
No, sir, I just took them to, so that you could get a better idea of the condition.
Yeah, so everywhere where this wood is exposed, there's gonna have to be siding that'll be put back over top of it. The exposed wood can't just be painted.
That's my understanding, Wade's gonna paint it the same color as.
Well, what I'm saying is we can't permit that.
Oh, okay.
The siding has to be, has to cover that existing wood. The house has to be completely covered in siding where the
Right.
siding used to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking we're having a
Because
disconnect.
that's, that's the way all the windows were originally. See, there was the siding, I think the reason those gaps are there is because the old windows were taller.
Yeah, yeah.
But as Byron was saying, I think we'd want to see
Yeah.
that filled in with the siding
Okay.
to match. and
Right
paint it
there.
out the same color.
Underneath that.
Yes, so
This
that's
siding
gonna-
should continue.
That's gonna have to, yeah, that siding's gonna have to be replaced, either with siding that you have available or with replacement wood siding.
Okay.
Like, see how this siding, that needs to continue on up to
Uh-huh.
the bottom of the
Uh-huh.
casement.
Okay, so, so it sounds like the only issues that we have are, the door, which we can't approve the replacement door, and the foundation, we can't approve the, stone covering that you were proposing. What has to happen with the foundation, it has to be repaired, and then you can stucco over that if you'd like. With regard to the door, I guess it sounds like that door is not the original, but we need to sort through that. If it is the original, we can't allow it to be removed. If it's not, then we can, but we would have to approve an appropriate replacement door that would match the style and period of the house. And the door you have does not do that. So we can't approve that door. So, does anyone have any other comments or questions? If not, is there a?
I think we can approve the paint color, the repairing the siding, and approve the casing around the windows. We can approve the repair of the foundation, but the stucco, because it's already got stucco on it, so we'd have to just fix that. But the door, we'd have to table that.
And to be clear, you did go to the Historic Society. There is no picture of this original door
Yeah, it's just the one
in that book.
In the
Nancy
book,
King.
and we can't really zoom in on that real clearly.
It's got the same kind of
Yeah,
right
with-
up top, so that's why I assumed, because the door's kind of pretty old, it looks like, so it looks like it probably
Yeah.
would be, like I said, either the original or it was very early alteration that followed with the building, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if this came from Craigslist, it's obviously an old door.
Yeah.
Pretty door.
So, that's why I said it either, or it could have been a very early alteration that was close to when the building was constructed.
You don't have a shed on your property that has an old door in it, do you?
No, no.
What was your source of information that this came from eBay?
Craigslist.
Well, the
Craigslist.
young lady that owned the house that sold it to me, told me that, she got that from Craigslist. And as I said, it was not her fault, but it's just poorly installed and it's bowed and got cracks in it, and the bore bees have done a pretty good job on it. And it lets heat out, and I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but about any kind of bug scares me.
I mean, is this something, should we go take a look at this? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
an important issue.
I'm just wondering if
I mean,
we need to
I'm not
take a
really
field
comfortable
trip down
saying you
there.
can remove it without really verifying that it's not the original door.
No, I agree that, I mean, I think what I'm hearing you say is you're not okay with the door that he's choosing anyways. So regardless of whether or not it's original, you'd have to find a different type of door. And so then the verification process of whether or not it's original.
But we don't want you to be covered up in bugs because the door doesn't fit.
Thank you.
I'm not exactly sure how we would determine if it was original.
Well, and if it's badly warped, it's not an easy thing to repair.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as much as I think it looks good and is appropriate,
Yeah, I agree.
you don't want something with
Well, let's
bugs
just for
and bows.
security. You wanna,
bees coming into your house.
Well, I guess we'll
wait.
have to table that then, because you'll have to bring you'll have to bring back an appropriate door to replace this.
if we
Okay.
approve the other things, will that give you enough to do before we can
Yes.
decide on the door?
Yes, ma'am.
And also, just to remind you, anything else, since you didn't realize you were in the historic district, any other exterior changes that you want to do, you will need to come to us
Yes.
on. I'm
And
sure.
I'll do that. I'll get
Okay.
Wade up there to look at what you've recommended.
Okay.
And see what ideas he has to do, what you've recommended.
And we can meet with him too and just.
Yeah, that'd be fun, and you guys are welcome to, come up and look at what's taken place already. And, but I appreciate you calling first, because I help Jerry out, the Creeper Trail Bicycle Shop.
Okay.
When he gets a little, crowd, and I go up there every morning and
Okay.
just to have some company.
We won't just pop in.
Yeah, good, good.
And Wade did show up this morning, but he thought the meeting was at 9, not
Okay.
5:15, so
Wade's last name.
So is there a motion?
Nunley.
Nunley.
Is there a motion?
Why don't you make it, Mike, because you had it sort of in your head.
I'll make a motion that we approve the foundation repair in stucco, that approve the paint color, approve replacing it or repairing the siding that needs to be replaced and repaired, and approve the casing around the windows. And I think that covers it, doesn't it?
All right.
And,
Table the door.
right, but those areas under the windows would be,
Well, I guess we need to make-
siding would be placed in there
Right.
to align with the other siding.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there a second?
I'll second
All right, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartsman?
that. Aye.
Mr. Geeson?
Aye.
One other thing I'd like to add, if you guys don't mind. I put posters up all over town and some of the businesses, and got more to go yet, but that puppy, and that's what it concerned. I overslept, which is highly unusual for me, in the van while I was warming up. Jerry keeps the air conditioning wide open 24 hours a day. And so I went outside and laid back in the van, and I left the door open. And he won't go anywhere without me. And for some reason, he got out of the van and started through the neighborhood and eventually ended up on the Creeper Trail. So as soon as I realized he was gone, I headed back behind Jerry's, and there was a fellow back there with his son mowing that they had saw the pup in front of the church, in front of, I think I call it a marquee, I don't know if that's the right word or not. And so I walked back there and looked around, and then headed off towards Creeper Trail, and actually jogged sometime for, I don't know when I last jogged. But that day, I met people on the trail that had saw the pup. They couldn't tell me where, that actually saw it. And so I think the last person I passed that had saw it was close to the 7-mile marker. So I kept walking all night trying to find it, and I took a lot of falls. And I can't remember for sure, but I think I saw the last mile marker, I believe, was 17. So I went out on the highway to go further because it ran right alongside the trail. And of course, I didn't have any balance. I staggered along, and a sheriff's deputy stopped, and I don't know this, but I figure he thought I'd been drinking or using drugs one. And he stopped and asked me the pertinent questions, and I answered them. Of course, he got on his radio and asked questions and things. And I didn't have my driver's license with me, and I hadn't taken any. I kept putting off pictures of the pup, and I'm really bad for that. I'll do it tomorrow. But anyway, he got in touch with the ambulance, and just in a matter of minutes, the ambulance was there and got me on board, and just in a matter of minutes, they got me to Johnson Memorial. And I spent over 2.5 days there, and from exhaustion and nerves and injuries I had, and I'd like to add this. I was treated like the King of England. I mean, those were the nicest folks. I can't imagine getting treated any better anywhere else, and it was just amazing to me. The nurses and the doctor that took me as a patient. The only name I remember, first name, was Chase, and he and his assistant were working the last night I was there, and just.
Were you able to find your dog?
No, sir, I haven't. I'm
Was
still.
there something you wanted us to, I mean, when did this happen?
It was on a Tuesday, around 4 o'clock, when I realized that he was missing.
Was there something you wanted us to do, or you just wanted us to tell us about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you about it, and there are posters. I've got more places to put them, but some I just took inside, and like bonfire.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you would like us to look at those pictures?
Oh, yes, sir.
And
Yes,
if we
sir. I'd
see your
love
dog,
to
let you
for
know?
you too.
Okay.
And if you could, just tell your friends, neighbors,
will.
family about it.
I'll put it on I live in Winterham, and we have a web page. I'll put it on there, because
Okay.
that runs along the Creeper Trail.
Okay, great.
All right, we'll
fantastic.
do that.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Good luck with
it. Good luck.
Stay.
You can stay if you like, that's no
Okay.
problem. Okay, so next we have David Signer, Certificate of Appropriateness at 314 Depot Square, and we'll again have the staff give us an overview.
David Signer, owner/applicant, has requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for a sign. So, for some reason, in share file, it didn't change the address. For some reason, it's 306, not 314. So it's the train station that we're thinking of, not the depot. So I just want to make that clear. For some reason, in share file, I didn't save it for some reason in the agenda. The property is located on 306 Depot Square. The sign will be located at the front of the property, fronting Depot Square, measuring 32 inches by 18 inches, roughly 5 to 6 feet tall, and be permanently affixed to the ground. The proposed sign will be double-sided and will read Mr. Signer's Men's Shop. The property is within the Old and Historic Districts of District 13 and can be seen from a public right-of-way. So some background, the subject property contains approximately .055 acres. Generally, the subject property is located at 306 Depot Square Southwest. There is currently no sign where the proposed sign is to be located. Recently, the train station was converted into an incubator for small businesses. There is currently a black painted metal pole in front of the property where a previous business, Abingdon Adventure, used to hang a sign. Either the sign or the business are still at the train station. That business went out of business a couple years ago. Access to the site will continue to be Depot Square Southwest, and adjoining properties are OH on 3 sides, and to the north is a B3 zone, Central Business District. Staff findings, the proposed freestanding sign will be located at the front of the property, fronting Depot Square, measured 32 inches by 18 inches, equaling 4 square feet, roughly 5 feet to 6 feet tall, constructed of CNC carved high-density urethane, HDU, and be permanently affixed to the ground. The proposed sign will be double-sided and will read Mr. Signer's Men's Shop. Supporting the sign will be a pole, either of wood or metal, have a wooden frame with metal rustic accents, and be primed and painted. The proposed sign frame, as described by the applicant, will be similar to the taverns on East Main Street. Illumination of the sign was not mentioned in the proposal, so staff assumes the sign will not be illuminated. Color scheme for the sign is as follows: 2 black right-angle triangles in the top left and bottom right of the sign. Lettering within the 2 black right-angle triangles is white. Within the center of the sign, running diagonally across from the bottom left corner to the top right corner, is a white strip with black lettering. And that is it.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Diane, a pleasure to meet you. face-to-face. He was very helpful in getting me in for the deadline. My name's David Signer. I reside at 1088 Hillman Highway. And just for some clarification, the address at the depot, or the passenger station, the tenant space that I am in, is 304 Depot Square.
Bunch of addresses for you.
Southwest. The Southwest was confirmed by UPS today when I was arranging for a shipment of ties. So that was settled. But I'm a lifelong visitor to Southwest Virginia. My family came from Scott County and Dungannon, and I'm a longtime visitor to Abingdon due to family in town, and always wanted to find a reason to come to Abingdon and live in Abingdon, and that came to fruition about 2 years ago. I'm a licensed architect by trade, and life circumstances brought me to a hard stop sign and a left turn, so now I'm opening a men's shop. With the understanding if I build it, they will come. Because I'm an architect and the town was gracious enough to give me the upstart opportunity in the passenger station, I personally designed the sign. The context of the sign itself is designed to look a little bit like a shirt brand label that may be found in a piece of clothing. And that sign itself, the way it looks, is actually my logo that will be on my labels and my business cards. And then because of the passenger station, I picked up some of the design, the corbels on the post and the brackets. Those are mimicking the same corbels and brackets that are found on the passenger station. The color of the post is meant to match as closely as possible the color of the brick of the building. And then the steel accents are picking up from the steel that's at the shipping entrance at the passenger station. And basically, it being a men's shop, I threw in a little tie as a kind of an attraction, you know, to indicate men's shop as well, just part of the logo look. In my history of my career being an architect, I was on the Architectural Review Board, responsible for reviewing all proposed changes inside a planned development around SeaWorld. So whether it's modern or historic, I can greatly appreciate your guys' challenges with presentations coming before you. Me personally, the older it is, the more I like it. Hence my draw to Abingdon and the historic district. I think that's, I've always loved this part of the town, and looking forward to opening this business, and hopefully people find things that they like.
Excellent. Well, welcome. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I'm just curious where it's gonna go on this picture.
It
Page 3,
What?
yeah.
You mean the sign?
Yeah, I was just curious.
It's gonna, the 304 space, if I may, is on the left end of the building.
Okay.
So I'm basically from here over to the corner, and there's an old pole right here on the left side. And the reason for picking it there is, you know, that's in front of my space, and also it won't be blocked by the parked cars. And then one thing I neglected to do, I'm working with Jerry's Signs locally, and at the time we were rushing to get in, finish the design and make the deadline, and lighting was up in the air, and I wasn't sure if I needed to apply for lighting in this application, but if possible, I was contemplating putting in some solar lights, because obviously trying to get power up to that location, and this is a short-term lease with it being a business incubator. I don't know if that's able to be considered at this time as well. I found some solar-powered spotlights that I could either affix to the sign, but if there's a preference for it to be uplit from the ground, I can do that, or if I need to apply another time for that, I can do that as well.
I think we'd have to specifically see what you're proposing before we could
Okay.
act on it, don't you think?
I agree. Question I have is, I don't, where's the pole?
It's actually an old street sign pole. It's right there.
Am I over too far? Where am I?
Can you
hand
step,
to your
maybe
left.
can you,
Hand to
can
my
you
left.
step up here in front of the podium, maybe show us
I'm
up
sorry.
here? I'm sorry, you can't see
Yeah.
what
If you-
we're looking at.
You can barely, if you move the cursor, see that to the window on the right side of the door? You can just see where the pole
That's
is.
the,
Oh, I see.
okay, got
Yeah,
it.
it's
The
way over
brick,
there.
and it's basically a stop sign pole. You know, an old metal post with,
But you're gonna put yours out there in the grass, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I personally like it, I mean, not that I like, I think it meets all the guidelines.
Yeah.
And
What are the 4 options here? These are just some.
I don't know why they put those in there. This was my review copy.
Oh, okay.
What's actually gonna be installed is the
One in the
one
yellow.
inside the post. They just gave me different options. I don't know if they mentioned it, but I was,
Oh, that's the different font for the.
yeah, and the
signage.
diagonals.
Well, that's the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we all thought, so I'm glad you agree. For some
Stair
reason, they
step
didn't
onto
mention
the-
the tie. It was going to be proposed as a reflective material. Initially, the thought was if cars are driving by at night, you know, or the sun, you know, possibly, but the sun comes from the south side. So if that's an issue, we'll just paint the tie to be the purple. And there is a fair amount of light that, in this location, that comes from the street sign, or the street lighting. But obviously, I was hoping to be able to add a spot on it, just to give it a little bit more punch. And
so the reflective wouldn't be purple?
purple?
The reflective tie you were talking about would not be this color?
Yes, it
It
would
would
be
be
the
that color,
purple,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, how big is it? It's like, it's
Not-
not, couldn't be very big.
Not very big. The sign is 18 by, what is it, 28 or something like that? It's the 4 square feet. And they indicated double-sided, but the sign was going to be facing out.
So you're just using one sign.
Because as you're approaching, you know, from Main Street, it would be facing out, parallel with the face of the building. But the back will be finished. And the type of sign is matching the visitor sign material, that routed material with the raised letters.
Jerry's Signs usually does a lot of the historic signs.
Yeah, and that was what I brought to them, you know, the inspiration from the Welcome Center sign, the tavern type post, and I think there's an inn that has is it Black Dog?
Probably so.
Similar, but again, trying to incorporate some of the details from the passenger station from an architectural standpoint.
Okay, are there
I
any?
make a motion that we approve the sign in the yellow, sign, this sign.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
What's your time frame?
Time frame? I'll probably be open before the sign is installed. It's a 4-week production process for the sign, and I'm in the process of finalizing setup of the store. So definitely need to be open before Father's Day.
Yes.
Good point.
So that's the big push.
Cutting it close.
We went from June 1st to the week of June 1st to, you know, as soon as possible. But thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is a certificate of appropriateness for 212 West Valley Street, Matt Smith Rentals. Do we have someone here on behalf of, oh, okay.
the railing, or this little back porch.
So as you may remember, this came before you a couple months ago, and you wanted to see the railing that was gonna be on the back porch. And the chairman, Mr. Giesler, said, mentioned if there had to be a landing to comply with code on the back, since he was encapsulating the back porch, there needed to be. So Mr. Statzer directed me on what the dimensions had to be, and I relayed that to Mr. Smith. And you'll see the drawing in your packet, as that's what he's came up with, and the railing that he's proposing. So just to kind of go through the request, JMS Rentals LLC and Do It All Services, Matt Smith and Kevin Reap, has requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for exterior changes. The property is located at 212 West Valley Street. The exterior changes are a new wooden porch landing and metal railing off of a previously approved enclosed back porch. The applicants were asked to come back for these approvals at the April 6, 2022 HPRB regular meeting. The question of whether a landing was required by building code was posed by Mr. Giesler at the April 6 meeting prior to approval of the various exterior changes under review. At the time, building code does dictate a landing is needed in front of the door for the approved enclosed back porch. The property is within the Old Historic District, Sub-District 9, and can be seen from the public right-of-way. So I won't go through all the staff findings because we kind of just, well, with the background in some ways, I'll just kind of do a quick glance through them.
Let me ask you, I mean, have we already approved everything except the landing?
Except the railing.
Okay, well then,
If you want to just kind of go, you want to just go through
On
them.
this page, everything on this page we've already discussed,
Mhm.
even the door?
Yes.
I have a question, though. Nitpicking, I suppose, but 4 treads, 5 risers, that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think that's going to be enough, but it needs to meet code. I don't think we need to specify. But that sounds like it wouldn't be enough to get to the ground and still be within code maximum height.
I think, looking which one, I think it was the 5 treads, not the one, that's what's there originally, is the stairs there now have 5 treads, so it does hit the ground.
But I'm reading your staff findings with 4 wooden treads. Anyway,
Yeah, let me
just
go.
needs to meet code.
Yeah,
yeah, I guess what we're saying is we don't deal with whether something needs code or not, but Peyton was just pointing out that the plan's going to have to meet
no, yeah,
code,
Yeah.
so. All right, well, let's see, did we catch her off before you summarized everything we needed to with regard to the steps and the landing, or?
I'm just gonna go through the staff findings at the back
Okay,
here
go
for
right
this.
ahead.
The applicant is proposing to construct a wooden 3-foot by 5-foot landing directly in front of the previously approved enclosed porch door with 4 new wooden treads leading down to the existing walkway. The new wooden landing and stairs will be painted the same color as the front porch, which was approved in the April 6th meeting. The proposed railing is metal, painted black. The existing balustrade is wooden and painted white. The existing covered landing and stairs are painted a bluish gray color, matching the color of the building. Currently, there are 5 treads leading down to the existing walkway. According to Section 33-B of the Design Review Guidelines, new construction porches should employ a traditional design which is compatible with the architectural style and period of the particular associated building. Sections 34-A and 35-A both state the original material should be maintained or restored back to the existing design if removed or replaced. And to go with the 5 treads, I know when I went on Rick, when he was on site, he never mentioned anything about the treads being out of code, so what's ever there now, the 5 treads, that should be up to code.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, sir? Welcome.
Good evening. I'm representing Matt Smith and Kevin Reap. I'm Kevin's right-hand man.
And what's your name, sir?
John Bright,
Okay, and your address?
381 Burke Lane, Abingdon, Virginia.
Okay, is there anything further you'd like to add to that?
No, everything that we're proposing is exactly what we're going to build. I'm going to build.
Does anyone have any?
Is there gonna be any kind of post at the bottoms, or they're just gonna be?
A handrail post.
Just the handrail?
Yes, you're gonna have a handrail post, that's gonna be, lagged down into the concrete that's there now
Okay.
for stability.
Is that what this picture shows? Or the picture-
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that, I hadn't seen that one.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, we'll have that at the angle of going down the steps, following the grade of the steps.
Any other questions or comments? Not, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
Thank you,
very much.
folks. Thank you, have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the town of Abingdon, a certificate of appropriateness for screen doors. Staff presentation?
Sure, I'll do this one to give Gabe a little break, so he can catch up on minutes. The town of Abingdon is requesting approval of a certificate of appropriateness for 2 screen doors. As you all know, the property is located at 208 West Main Street, and the proposed screen doors will be located at the main entrances facing West Main Street and the back door facing Rumsford Drive. I won't go through too much of this, but we looked at quite a few pictures trying to see if we could see if a screen door had ever been placed on there. You can see that we put the 2 pictures in here that we could find. You know, the building was built in 1859. It's known as the Fields Penthouse. And there's been numerous owners over, you know, time. And so it does appear that in the Places in Time Volume 1, that if you look at that on page 7, it does look like there is possibly a screen door there in front of the original door. And then if you look at, it's kind of hard to tell in the lower one, if that is a screen door or not. So we do know that at one time in history, there was screen doors that were, you know, allowed or were just part of that building. So when we look at the history, though, it does appear that the screen doors would later be removed in 1989. That's where Gabe went and looked at the vertical clippings and saw that there, in 1989, the screen door was no longer there. So that is quite a history, you know, that really it seemed like there was a screen door there for only about 12 years out of the building's 163 years that are in existence. But as we all know, it'd be really great to have that door open, if possible, for the visitor center during the great weather days that we have, that they'd like to have people coming in and out of there. So we talked with the director of tourism, Tanya Triplett, and asked her to come up with some designs regarding the door. You'll see that the rear door facing Rumsford Drive is proposed to be much more simple in design, and the hopes is that the front door would have a more detailed design that would potentially mimic and or at least pull in some of the design characteristics that you see on the front railing of the structure. So these I know are Tanya's hand drawings, but I don't know if she got any better drawings. Okay, so if you want to come up here and tell them a little bit more, we were hoping to get better drawings by tonight, but looks like it didn't happen.
Good job.
We actually talked to Hunter Danhart, who is willing to build the doors for us. They are very large doors, so there's not, you can't buy custom screen doors to fit these large doors these days. So the design, if you will look in the corners below the window lights, those scallops and then the ovals that I've drawn in are on those. So that was where the design came from on that door. Can you see those?
Is the screen door gonna be painted white? Is the
Yes.
part?
Yes, on both doors.
We don't have a better picture of the door itself, the front door.
Oh, well, let's see. We can try to take a look here. Not sure if this new picture will have, or if this picture will have the latest version of the door. So it's a pretty plain,
It actually has the scallops in it as well.
My first impression is simpler is better.
That's exactly what
I
I was gonna
wouldn't
say.
try
Oh,
to-
that's perfect.
Yeah. I
See,
wouldn't try to mimic-
I was gonna try to mimic what was
No.
I
there.
don't like that mimic, yeah. It
Okay,
takes away- I
it's
think
not just my
the
drawing, you
period
all
of
not just
how-
saying
No,
that
it's not
because of my
just
drawings,
I think
okay?
I'll just go with the simpler.
Yeah, like the
better.
back door is fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay.
Now, it would need at least one crossbar as you've shown, and I would try to relate it to where the panels are on the
Right.
door itself.
Okay.
Did you consider doing the storm door that you could trade out glass for screen?
I was really thinking that you might approve a screen door.
Okay, I was just thinking because if your idea is to leave the door open to be more welcoming year-round, you could have a storm door with the door open when you're open.
That would be lovely, because we could leave that open more often than a screen door. But we'll take your recommendations to whatever.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, you look like you've done a lot of work already. I don't want to throw a wrench into it.
But unless you don't want a storm door with sliding panels and
No,
things.
but I have a storm door. No, they're not sliding, but my storm door, the whole piece comes out and then the screen can pop in the springtime.
It's full glass, and you
It's
just
full-
pop the
It's a full
screen.
glass piece,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you pop the glass out when
Yeah.
the weather's nice and the
there's not a
screen's there.
There's not a crossbar
Yeah.
on mine because it's sturdy enough around the
Does
sides.
someone make those custom?
Well, mine can-
We would probably have to get
For the
those made
size you
custom,
would,
because it's,
yeah.
the doors, I think the back door's 42.5 inches wide.
I had some made at Barter Drive, and I can't remember where I had them made, but they were custom made, just like she said.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
glass came out. and
Someone
you could put
locally?
And I think that looks better than the cross piece of,
Okay.
if you did get the big glass piece and then the big screen, if the weight's okay and the size. I don't know, I just think when you're open, to have that open, in the wintertime with a piece of glass, you're not gonna let your heat out like you would.
Right.
You know, in the
Yes.
back door, you probably don't need it, leave it open. I don't know where they're gonna park for this, probably on the
We
side.
actually do, we have a lot of visitors who come in from the
Okay.
back because the restrooms are back there.
Oh, right, okay.
So both doors are used pretty
The
regularly.
problem I had with that screen door, that people pushed on the screen. and
Okay.
it eventually got damaged pretty quickly.
Okay.
Because wasn't a crossbar for them to push on.
Okay, well, now that I know that you're okay with the screen door, I will look for some designs in that, and then I'll just come back if that's okay.
That'd be great.
A little
That'd be
bit
great.
later, because actually would prefer that, but I thought maybe being it was 1860, that a screen door would have been more appropriate, so that's where I started.
I mean, but it is the store, you know, the visitor center, so it's gonna get a lot of traffic, so,
It all,
yeah.
we just unlocked the door with no announcements in April, and we had 570 people, and we've had 331 over the last, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of last week. We had 331 people, so it's getting
Good.
a lot of traffic.
It's good.
So that screen would get pushed.
It would get pushed a lot. Okay, I will look for that, and I'll be back.
Do we, before we get too far, do our guidelines address like storm doors on the exterior? Is there a problem with that?
let's see.
We don't wanna.
Yeah, I don't wanna give you an idea.
False hope. Okay.
I think it's covered somewhere.
Talks a lot about doors, it doesn't really get into screen doors. Or storm doors.
There's a lot about storm windows, which
What
probably.
does it say about storm windows?
Well, remember when we redid these guidelines, they would fit within the frame
That's already there.
and not overlap the way a lot of storm windows with the aluminum flange.
Right. We allow storm windows on the outside of existing windows, obviously.
Mhm.
Okay, so there shouldn't be a problem with allowing a storm door.
Let's see.
I say wood.
Screen and storm doors should be correctly sized to fit the openings for which they're intended. So it does say storm doors, so
Okay.
it does allow them. It said, original screen doors should be preserved and maintained. New screen doors should be appropriate to the style of the house and maybe of wood. Storm doors should be of wood.
Okay.
So that might be your tough part.
Where was that, Maya?
Might be a
This is
kicker.
in
See, that's
design review
how I made it,
guidelines,
maybe.
section 40, and then D, and it says aluminum, this is interesting, aluminum storm doors are full view design with baked-on enamel or finishes and colors complementary to the building are also acceptable. So it pretty much seems like anything goes, so I don't know.
So the other visitor center is aluminum door,
Okay.
like you would see probably just at a Merchant's. It had the aluminum handle that you could pull, and then the inside you pushed it, and it locked.
Okay.
So I don't know if something like that with a white
It would be
enamel.
nice if you could get a pretty piece of hardware though, that would just kind of complement that building.
Yep, and there could be some doorknobs
Yeah,
left from
some pretty
something else that I
doorknobs.
could look at.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gives you some guidance, and you're gonna come back.
I will come
Okay.
back.
Okay.
Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is,
Skip something?
did I?
Derek Webb.
Derek Webb, 147 Valley Street.
All right, I'm gonna take this one too.
You here for that?
Let's see. Do the best to just pull up the staff report. So Derek Webb is the applicant. He has a representative here tonight, in his place, as he is not available, to meet and is out of town. So, the property is located at 147 Valley Street Northeast. And the proposal, there's a much larger project that he's looking to do for the entire front of the structure. But because they're in a bit of a time crunch specifically on the roof, he asked that we look at the roof tonight. So there's a proposed replacement roof at 147 Valley Street that is proposed to be standing seam painted black. One of the things that he indicated to us when we met with him was that he really wanted to have the roof of the adjoining, has very similar roof to the adjoining property. So if you see on page 7 of the staff report, you can see that the roof next to his property is black standing seam. What he has
Except for bonds.
on his roof is tin pressed metal shingles. They're painted silver. They can be seen today. If you look at the Places in Time Volume 2 that was written by Nancy C. King, this building was built in 1909, and it appears that it's still the same, that at that time it was these tin pressed metal shingle roofs. Based on the research, this existing roof does appear to be an original roof. And so the key thing that he indicated, the reason for wishing to replace the roof, was that it is currently leaking. So this will be a larger project later on other parts of the structure, but for now the request is specific that the existing roof be replaced with black standing seam so that they can eliminate the leaks. And
Did
I'm
you
not
say
sure.
black standing seam standing seam painted black, or is he gonna use a black baked on?
I thought he said painted black. Yeah.
But it would be pre-finished.
Pre-finished
black,
black,
not
yes.
painted on.
Not just
Correct.
painted after?
No,
Yes.
It'd be
Okay.
like already painted. but
Yeah,
yes.
okay, that's what I was confused about.
With a guaranteed finish and so on.
So if the applicant wishes to.
So obviously I'm not Derek Webb. My name's Matt Wynn. I live at 21158 Green Springs Road. I'm a friend of Derek's. Obviously they weren't able to be here tonight. She pretty much said everything I was gonna say. But yeah, the roof is leaking and it is in disrepair, and if it's not fixed, it is gonna start causing some damage within the house. Some research was done on the original stamp tin that's on there, and it's pretty much almost impossible to find. And if you can find it, it is astronomically expensive. So the black standing seam roof is what they're looking to do, like the neighbors. And yes, it is a pre-finished, it's the baked on black, it's not gonna get painted afterwards, so.
I vaguely remember that when the current owners or the previous owners, however you want to address that, came to get approval for this once before and just
She did.
never did it.
She did. She got approval for it. She got the building permits for it, I'm pretty sure, but funding ran out. She was just unable to follow through and put it on there, so.
So we did previously already approve.
Yeah.
Yes,
We just have a
yes.
year, it runs out after.
So
a year.
they're
And
ready
we
to
couldn't-
pull the
we
trigger
couldn't
on
find-
it.
We couldn't find it
It's
anywhere in our records, so, and ours go back to about 2015,
Yeah.
other than the minutes, so.
Is that Charlene?
Okay. Well,
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
That was
All right.
easy.
Thank you, appreciate y'all.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
The, this picture here, maybe you should show this to Tanya, because there is a storm door on this house. Did you see that?
On this house here,
Yeah.
yeah. Which actually, I don't know if it's on there now or not.
Oh, it's just interesting, because that's sort of
Yeah.
what she was proposing. Same kind of door frame and everything.
Mhm.
Say hi to your mom.
I will, thank you.
Okay, so, we have no public comments, so we'll move on to, an update on the Abingdon Historic Preservation Day.
Okay, so, I guess the first, well, I'll pull it up here so we can show it off a little bit. We've been moving forward on this August 18th with a lot of help from Tanya. And we were able to secure the Martha space, at the ballroom. I've now worked with them to have, a few hors d'oeuvres. I've also been in contact with, we kind of talked about what would we like to do if we wanted to do a walking tour. Well, I talked to Donna Marie and she said that she could do, she's like, it's gonna be hot, really hot in August, so she's like, what if we did a cemetery tour instead? And people could come over there and she could talk to them about the cemetery. And so I said I thought that sounded like a great idea. I asked her if she wanted to do that. So she's got the date set aside if we want to pull the trigger on that. And then I talked to the DHR and, their big push, they gave me 45 names of different local government names that they want me to invite. I don't know how many people would show up, but that we would invite people. And, hopefully that would also help not only promote the fact that we're spending $2,500, which we got in a grant, but spending $2,500 for a speaker, I'd really like to try to get as many people out as possible. So I'm gonna contact the local governments and then also put in here your desire to have more of a panel at some point. So the way I kind of see the day going is that the daytime things would be primarily for local government folks, maybe people who have time off in the day, and more of training. So really focus that on, tax increment financing, different topics that Aubrey had mentioned was like roles and responsibilities of preservation boards and historic districts, what public outreach looks like, probably back to what you're gonna say here is that why don't people all, when they move into the district, get a booklet? And so, really talking about those things. And then we would basically transition, and that Sinking Spring Cemetery tour would be that afternoon transition where people could come, if they would like to come to the tour, and then we would transition into the evening. We do have the ballroom reserved from 6 to 8. Obviously we kind of said we wanted like a 45-minute talk, and then we probably would have some mingling there. You all said that maybe Byram would do a introduction and, talk a little bit more, not just in the daytime, but also in the evening about expanding the historic district. So the goal is not to have people do all of these. It's basically to give the option for local government to get training in our area, and then also to invite the public to our event in the evening. The only piece that we don't really have a strong handle on yet is whether or not we could actually take a tour of the Summers building and go up on the rooftop, just because they're not really open yet, so we haven't really been able to solidify that. So this is my proposal.
They were thinking that they would be open by then, by August, but
Okay.
who knows? But, and they were excited about it, so I think they'd like
Okay.
to do it if we can.
Yeah.
But so, the main thing would then be our speaker that would, and are we thinking 6 or 6:30 for that? Is that?
Yeah, in my mind, people would probably get there at 6, and we probably have 30 minutes where I've selected some like drinks and hors d'oeuvres and stuff so people could kind of mingle and then settle in, and then you could present, or however many people from, HPRB that want to present, and then try to kick him off and have him maybe do a 7 to 7:45.
Okay.
So,
And so the Donna Marie and the cemetery would be after the day sessions before this.
And there's a picnic with that?
we were thinking that we'd offer, if people sat through 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I figured they would probably need some food over there, so I did not
Catherine
receive a
Elliott?
contact back from, your contact, and then Donna Marie gave me another contact, so I'm gonna check with her. So, I'm open to suggestions, this was just kind of to transition
How is the
us.
money looking, like?
So far, we should be fine. I talked to our finance director, and he said that we're okay. The planning department currently has a little bit of extra money because unfortunately we didn't have a director for some portion of the year. And we also have money in our training budget still, which I'm gonna use for this.
So we have funding to use the Martha Washington facility and also have some refreshments
Correct.
there.
That's covered,
So,
yes.
so the issue then is whether, after the speaker, we just stay at the Martha Washington and have something there, or whether we still do something to where after the speech, we try to do a tour of the historic district and then up at the Summers building
I
or
think
something.
that's a lot.
So.
If it seems too much, I mean, again, it was, we kind of, I know we were all excited about having the overlook,
Right.
and maybe we could have them provide us a tour, and maybe just the people who want to could walk or drive over there and we just tour it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking if you get everybody to stay till 8 o'clock, you've done well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you gotta get from there to there.
Right, and they've gotta park the car again if they've driven and.
And some people, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of people will only come to the 6 o'clock thing, especially local people.
What are you
but we
sort of
might-
looking at as a attendance number? Have you thought that?
I mean,
through?
I'm hoping, between around 30 to 50 would be
Okay.
great.
Okay.
I think that between just us in this room, Historic Society, Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee, and
then just
probably our invitation.
Our target audience
Yeah,
of homeowners.
correct.
I did run into David Berg, and he took me through the building last weekend, the
Okay.
Summers building, and it's incredible. And they do have a big events room on the 3rd floor that would be plenty big for that. But the problem again, if that were up and running, we could have, instead of the Martha Washington, we could have that there and then go up to the rooftop and we'd just have everything there, but, we don't know how to price that yet, or we don't know if they're gonna, it's really
Yeah.
hard to plan
That's the tough
with
part.
that being unknown.
And for me, I need it out of this budget year.
Right.
So I kinda have to lock
So
it
I think we're
in.
gonna just have to,
Well, and the Martha's so iconic.
It is,
So
it
I
is.
think for people coming from out of town, that's
right,
gonna be where they don't know enough about the Summers building.
right, so I think that's,
But I'd still love, if we can still work on getting a tour or something, perhaps maybe a smaller thing, perhaps it's a tour for just us, like the HPRB has a tour, or, maybe it's a smaller, more organic thing where we say, we'll have, anyone who wishes to go with us will walk down there.
yeah, well, we could do that just as a finish to the night, to say
Yeah.
there would be a tour of the Summers building, if
Right.
you'd like to do that, and not.
And that would
not
end the
do-
evening too,
yeah,
like-
that might be a possibility.
And then they could end there too, like if it was open as a restaurant, then people
Then we
could
could
just
just
end
stay there
there,
if we
yeah.
wanted to, and it
Right.
wouldn't be a function for us.
And that's
That-
on everybody's own ticket.
Right.
Maybe that's the best solution of
I
all,
like that.
just
Okay.
to,
Okay,
yeah,
Put
and
You like
then
that?
we can move on with our planning, but still have that incorporated.
okay.
That
I
seems
like that.
like
It's
it's
a
a
really
great
good
idea.
And I know before I had it kind of shrunk together, but it seemed like you said, it's too much to all squeeze into a couple hours. So I spread it out, because I do think that if the DHR folks are coming all the way, that we should give them time to present, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which leads me into our panel, and, page, this is what I'm trying to figure out, is, who we would like to invite. I kinda picked, the the things that are, you know, our expansion of the historic district, I figured we would talk about that. I know Byram, you had kind of mentioned that that could be you. You know, being a developer, or developing in the historic district, I figured hopefully we could get Nate to do
Yeah.
that. I didn't know if Betsy wanted to talk about the role of the
I
HPRB
think
or
she
anyone
would,
else, but
yeah.
she seems like
That would
she
be
would
good.
probably enjoy
She
that.
doesn't even need notes to do it.
Yeah. And then I didn't know if we wanted to invite anybody from, you know, we have the muster grounds, we have Historical Society. They don't necessarily really interact with us here in the HPRB, but I didn't know if there was any desire, and
Is this right before our speaker?
it will be the first
So
thing
how
of the
much
day.
time are you saying, Byron, like 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't think we want to do this first thing of the day, because I think that, you know, if the idea of expanding the historic district is going to be the main thrust of our main event with the main speaker, right?
I figured you'd
So-
do it you'd probably do it twice in the day,
Okay,
but
because
yeah.
probably the people that we ask to come
Mhm.
will only come to that, they're not gonna come to
Okay.
these, don't you think? Like people that live on the, whatever block of East Main Street are probably not gonna come at 1 o'clock and stay here, so I
Yeah.
would think these, all this is geared toward those people.
So the only reason that I thought we should start the day this way is just because that's our goal, is the expansion of the
Right.
historic district. Everything else is a little bit, so, I mean, we could
Maybe we could
flip-flop,
tone it down for that
flip-flop.
and then.
Mhm.
you-
Reiterate at the.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just, I think all of that needs to be made right before our speaker, and I'm thinking that needs to be fairly brief, so I'm thinking maybe we would just do the expansion of the historic district, have someone like Nate speak and Betsy, and then go right to the speaker.
Okay,
it's
so you
not-
want that, you don't want it to do an earlier type of thing?
No, because I think that's all geared toward the
Okay.
people who are trying to get to come to hear the speaker and talk to you after the,
Okay.
don't you think?
Well, then I think you could do the Historical Society and the Overland could be offered during the day, because that doesn't need to be done in the evening.
Or we can, I mean, we can do it twice, I'm just thinking it needs
The-
to at least occur
yeah.
before.
I agree with you. I think the thing that I was thinking here with the twice situation, because I did plan at least 30 minutes for this type of discussion before the main speaker, it was just that this is talking, if we hopefully get other communities to come in, that's kind of where we're promoting and
Gotcha.
talking about what we do as an example for them.
Are we gonna offer any CEUs to these other communities?
I don't know if I can do that.
Okay.
I can try and
I'm just
check
curious
out.
if that might
Yeah.
get more people to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah. But, so this was more like this was in the daytime, more training oriented, and then, yes, I definitely think the 30 minutes prior to, Donovan speaking, that we definitely should have
Yeah, I
a
think if
reiteration.
Byron, Nate, and Betsy did a 5 to 7 minute presentation before the speaker, I think that'd be awesome.
Right, I think you need more than that, so,
Right, I mean, it'd be to the point, brief.
Right.
Do the after you all done, or even introduce the speaker. or
So what are
mention-
the action items, like what's the goal after they speak? How do we go, where do we go next with this?
After all this event is done.
Right.
So after the event is done, if we get positive, if you all basically hear positive comments from the discussions that you have,
Right.
the next thing is if we do want to expand the historic district, it's a zone map amendment. So it's pretty, I guess it's like cut and dry, the process at that point. So we'd go in front of the planning commission and ask for a zone map amendment. If they want to push it on, then it goes to the town council for an approval. And so that's similar to anybody if they wanted to rezone residential property to, commercial or something of that nature. It's really no different.
So that's public hearings.
Public hearings and all of that.
So we'll be sort of mingling and kind of promoting that, is that our
That's what I
job?
would think, yeah. I mean, the idea here is like, if we, showing the value of the historic district, showing the value of what you all do, having somebody come in and really
Yeah.
sort of say, yeah, historic districts are amazing, there's only a few of them, honestly, in Virginia, and you do need to support yours, and that's where you all come in and say, we wanna expand ours, so.
I like that, I think you've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the muster ground being included.
Yeah.
No, and I
It
kinda
kind
put
of
that.
dilutes things
Sure.
a little bit, maybe. if we're focusing on the district, basically.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think the
Okay.
same thing with the Historical Society. I mean, I think they're just really not going to
That's fine.
be focused on what we're trying to achieve with the evening.
Well, maybe then during the daytime, we don't include them, but in the daytime, maybe you all could have more of like a, a 15-minute presentation apiece, and then that way you can have questions in between and sort of make it more of a lesson for people that come, and then in the evening, you're doing more of like a promotional
Yeah.
bit.
Because really, mustard grounds aren't in the historic district, right?
They aren't, I was
Yeah.
just, or they're actually owned by the,
Park Service or
mhm.
something. Yeah.
Okay, I think that works.
You like
What do
it?
think?
I do like it.
Okay.
And I hope that we can, are we still doing this door-to-door thing, or?
Yeah,
how are we-
I haven't brought that back up, cause I feel like that might be closer to the time, but you
Yeah.
all, I mean, if you all still want to,
Yeah, I
you
think
had
we
mentioned
need
you
to
wanted to do that.
I think that's,
We need to target at least some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we need to really try to get those people there.
and we can make a brochure, we can bring that maybe at the next meeting, a brochure that you all would hand to people.
Well,
and have
even
the
this, I
talking
mean,
points.
yeah,
an
expand on that,
invitation.
that's really nice
Yeah.
looking.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's
All
all I
right.
have.
All right, is there anything else that we need to take up today? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Wait, before we, what's our next meeting? Do we have a mid-month meeting, or are we just
Not
back
yet.
to
Do you
normal?
all want to have a mid-month meeting for,
When does Betsy get back?
Mr. Compton?
Well, I guess we should just leave it up to him if he wants to have one.
Yeah.
and then you all, and then the sign, the sign, did you all decide on?
I don't think we
Or
told anybody.
were they okay just with the 2x2?
Well, I think they're gonna come back, but I was left with the impression that they were gonna contact you
Okay.
with their finished
For the
product.
ramp?
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the ramp, like, we're gonna offer, since the big thing for him was pushing back his opening date, so we kinda said, go with the sign for right now, we'll give you a temporary COA, and then whenever you get all the specs done, that's approved with Rick, you can come back and I'll look at it and everything, and bring it to you guys, and that'll be all good.
All right, so is there a motion to adjourn?
I made that motion.
Second.
Second,
Second.
roll call?
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
I wanted to mention outside of the meeting,